Conditions at two of Iowa's centers for people with disabilities violate the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's according to a new Department of Justice report. And the report outlines extensive issues with both Glenwood and Woodward resource centers. The centers, which are run by the state, provide care and services to roughly 280 Iowans. Local 5's Mary Sugden has been digging through this report. She joins us in studio with a breakdown of the key findings.
Yes, Samantha, the DOJ says Iowa's system of care for people with disabilities is flawed. The agency claims that's due to keeping residents in Iowa institutions instead of providing them with care in more community settings, which it says better benefits residents and is the cheaper option for the state. The report says even though the state has known this for years, little has been done, ultimately affecting the quality of life for residents.
The system is segregated. That's how the Department of Justice describes Iowa's system of service at Glenwood and Woodward resource centers. So where exactly is the state missing the mark? According to the Americans with Disabilities Act, public entities are required to provide services in the most integrated setting appropriate. But the DOJ says the state of Iowa plans, administers, and funds its public health care in a way that needlessly segregates people with disabilities to resource centers, instead of providing services where they could live among their communities. The 31-page report contains a number of residents' firsthand experience of this breakdown. For example, one resident has lived at Glenwood for nearly 50 years. Staff say he could easily be served in the community. At Glenwood, he lives with 13 others and has harmed himself. Behaviors that staff believe would decrease if he lived somewhere quieter. While his favorite things to do are getting out into the community, he was only off the center's campus 14 times in all of 2019. When the DOJ spoke with his guardian, she was completely unaware he was fit to live in a different setting. That unawareness emerged time and time again as the DOJ investigated and spoke with guardians. They found resource center staff simply don't have sufficient knowledge about alternative living arrangements in Iowa's communities. That's on top of the state not funding enough of those community arrangements. A statement from Iowa Department of Human Services Director Kelly Garcia says while her office takes the findings seriously, she says she's not surprised by them. Adding, "We have been working closely with the DOJ and have been working internally to address any of the findings throughout the past 2 years. We're proud of the work we've already done during a pandemic and are committed to continued progress."
And we asked Governor Reynolds' office for an interview, but were directed to DHS. DHS Director Kelly Garcia was unavailable for an interview today. Now, while the DOJ says it looks forward to working with the state on these future improvements, if a resolution can't be reached, it says that it would have to be forced to launch a lawsuit to bring the state into compliance with ADA. Now, that could happen as soon as 48 days. We'll continue to look into this report and follow any next steps taken by the state. For now, in the studio, Mary Sugden, Local 5 News, We Are Iowa.
Mary, thank you. The DOJ began investigating Glenwood Resource Center in December of 2019, and that stemmed from an alleged study on sexual arousal and other human experiments on people with intellectual disabilities. In February of 2020, Governor Kim Reynolds said her office had received no complaints about Glenwood. Later that month, lawmakers held an oversight meeting relating to Glenwood. Then in April 2020, the doctor behind the alleged human experimentation resigned from his post at Glenwood. Nearly 1 year ago, the DOJ concluded Iowa failed to protect some of its most vulnerable residents. An assistant attorney general saying individuals with disabilities are not human guinea pigs. They should never be subject to bizarre and deviant pseudo-medical experiments that injure them. You can learn more about the investigation of the Glenwood Resource Center by texting the word WATCH to the number here.